My middle name is Kay, and my last name is Burchett.
Great. And can you share with us your first name?
Linda.
Linda. Great. So Linda K. Burchett. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Great. When were you born?
I was born on May the 26th of 43.
Lovely. Great. What's your favorite color?
Red.
Red.
I love red.
What's your favorite flower?
Rose.
A red rose? Yeah, good. And I noticed as I was walking in all of your beautiful flowers out front. Do you garden? Are those all of your flowers?
Mine and Monica's. Monica's been with me for 19 years.
Okay.
They moved in when we did.
Okay, great.
So she stays here with me, and she takes care of the utilities, and I take care of the house payment. So.
Love that. Great, good. And do you have a favorite song?
Amazing Grace.
Did your mom ever tell you about what that day was like for her when she had you? Was it an easy childbirth? Was it long? Do you know anything?
She never talked about it.
Okay, that's okay.
We weren't allowed to say anything about stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
Because my dad told me for years, and I believed him, that he cracked me out of a walnut. And I believed him because we lived on Walnut Street in Portsmouth, and he said, I cracked you out of a walnut. So I believed him. And we weren't allowed to talk about sex or anything like that.
Sure.
So I went to school my first year, and they asked me, and I told them, and they all laughed at me, you know. And she said, well, you was in your mommy's belly. I said, no, I wasn't, you know. My dad cracked me out of a walnut. And so, anyway, I came home and I told Mom, I said, you know, babies come from your belly. And Mom said, you don't talk like that. Mom was very strict.
Sure.
Very strict on us.
I'm going to go ahead and have you now reach into that basket, pull out one of those questions, read it out loud for us on camera.
What is your favorite memory when the boys were younger? A trip or a vacation? Okay, Fred and I, we had an old van, and it was at DC. He had them DC characters painted on the van, and we went out west with the boys. So Fred, he cut a hole in the van and put a little, what do you call them? One of those little things down in it, so the kids could pee, because he didn't want to have to stop. So we went out west, and we visited his family. And he had a friend that lived out there that he went to school with. So we went out there and visited. And the boys all got out, was playing, you know, and stuff. And so on the way back, Fred said, they're whispering back there. I said, I know. I think you should pull the van over so we can check out what's in there. So he pulled over at a rest stop, and we got back there, and the boys had scorpions, they had spiders, they had lizards. Whatever they found, they put in a jar, and they was going to bring it home with them. So I had to get in there and dump all of that stuff. So I got on them about that. And then we stopped at another place, and Fred wanted to change his oil. So he got out and changed the oil, and so me and the boys went up into the woods. We heard water running. So we got up there, and there was a great big round hole of water, clear as it could be. And we came back, and we all got jiggers. We were covered with jiggers. So we stopped at a hotel and checked in there. I had to go buy fingernail polish and stuff to put on all of the jiggers, you know. And so that was our vacation, just going to Arizona, because that was the only place that had relatives, you know. The rest of them lived right around here.
Yeah.
32 hours we were on the road. And the only time he would stop was when we needed something to eat, or he had to go to the bathroom.
So we could stop for him.
Yeah, but we couldn't stop for the boys. When did you meet Grandpa? Well, I met him at church. And he would sit in the back seat and throw spitballs at me. And that's where I met him and his mom and dad and some of his brothers. And so it went on from there, but I really wasn't allowed to date because I was 15. So Mom and Dad would let me go to church with them, but they would follow. And then when we got back home, if I wasn't in the house, the porch light went on, and I knew I had to get in there. So Mom was very strict on us.
Do you appreciate that she was so strict?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about that.
I do appreciate that.
You don't ever wish that she maybe was a little bit more lenient with certain things?
No, I wasn't allowed to go to a ball game. I wasn't allowed to go to a movie.
And you're okay with that? I
was then, but when I got married, that was the first thing I wanted to do. Take me to a drive-in, or else take me to a ball game, because I never did get to go, you know. And it was an experience for me. And I wasn't allowed to wear pants. I had to wear a dress all the time, you know.
Yeah.
If you could give any other mother advice, what would you tell her? Well, I wasn't as strict on my boys as what my mom was, and I wished I was stricter. And I think that mothers should know at all times where your children are and what they're getting into.
Like scorpions.
Yeah. Like scorpions and spiders and stuff. Yeah. You know, my first son was Ted. He was the best baby I had. And I think that you've got to give the babies more attention than what some parents do nowadays. It just seems like nowadays they want to push the kids on somebody else instead of taking care of themselves, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Dad was a good dad. And Dad taught me about money. If you borrowed a $20 bill off of Dad, you didn't get no more money until you paid that $20 back. And it taught me a lot about paying my debts, you know. And Dad was a great man. He was a very religious man, and he was very outgoing. He would always take us to the woods, and he'd get ginseng and yellow root. He always carried that in his pocket. And he loved the outdoors. But you know, everywhere he went, he built him a little altar so he could get down and pray. And he always, Dad couldn't read, but God gave him the gift of reading the Bible. And he would sit there and he would read that Bible. And some words he didn't know, he would spell them out, and then he'd get the answer to it. And when I was growing up, we did not go to bed unless we all sat in the living room and Dad read the Bible, and we all had to get down on our knees and pray. And he lived till he was 92 years old.
What's one thing that you know that you do that your dad also did too?
Well, not too much, I don't think. I don't testify a lot about God like Dad did. And I need that, you know. It's something that you should never be ashamed of. And I've never been ashamed of it. And I'm glad that he taught me right from wrong. What were some pranks that your boys pulled on you? Well, I can't think of anything that they did to me.
Oh, that's good. That's good then. Good.
I know that they'd try to scare me. You know, like they would get him up behind the door and jump out at me or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
They weren't that scary.
Okay, good. Thank you, sons.
Yeah.
Good.
When and where did you get saved? Well, it was at Beechwood Church. And I think I was like 13. That's where I got saved at Beechwood. It was one of your favorite meals your mom made growing up. Fried chicken. She would fry that, and then she would put it in the oven and bake it. And it was just real crispy. It was good, yeah.
Now, do you make that? Would you ever cook that?
I tried, but it don't taste like Mom's, you know.
It never does.
It
never does.
No.
Now, what do you cook though or do you cook?
Yeah.
Now, do you have something like that though that is like your staple food that you know you do well?
My potato salad. All the kids and grandkids love Grandma's potato salad.
And you know that if they try to duplicate your recipe,
Yeah.
it will never taste as good as yours.
Did Grandpa ever complain about only having one leg? No. He never complained. He was a great provider. My mom and Dad didn't care for me marrying him because he had an artificial leg. But that never stopped him. He played softball. He would go to the football games. I mean, he loved sports. But that never stopped him from going to work. He provided for us. But his mother really forced that in him when he shot his leg off when he was 16. And his mother forced him. She said I would stand and look out the window at him going to school, and he would fall or something, but he'd get right back up and go on. She said I couldn't go out and get him. I had to let him learn that he had to do it on his own, and he did, you know. What was your favorite thing that your mom taught you growing up? Well, she taught me how to be a mother. Her kitchen was her door. You could not go in there when she was cooking or doing dishes. She took care of the kitchen. I had to farm. I was the smallest one of the family, the littlest one. So I'd have to go out and work with Dad in the fields. And she would do all the cooking and everything. When I first got married, I couldn't even boil water. my husband, Fred, he had to show me how to cook, you know. I remember we had that, he'd make potato soup. That's about the only thing he knew. We'd eat potato soup all the time.
Then you turn that potato soup into potato salad.
What is something you want your family to do when you are gone? Well, I hope and pray that they all stick together. I do not care for this not knowing where one of them is or the other one is. I just want my boys to get along where they can, you know, be with each other on the holidays and stuff.
Yeah. I might not keep this, not even in the public, or the family version. But during the holidays, do they come together or no?
They'll come, but they're not all together.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, well, I'll have my Thanksgiving dinner. I usually have it a Saturday before Thanksgiving because they all have families, you know.
Right.
And they usually show up, but not all at once. You know, they tinker in all day long.
Yeah.
So,
Do your sons get along with each other?
yeah, but they don't visit like they should. And if they do have odds against each other, they do come together on holidays, you know. You gotta leave that outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Good advice. Yep. Next question.
Okay. If you could give any advice to your grandchildren now in your future, well, to my grandchildren, I would love to see them in church. And I would love to see them have a good life. But one thing about having a good life, you gotta work for it. You can't just think things good's gonna come your way. You gotta work for it. Okay, is there anything you would have done different as a mom? Being a little bit more stricter.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
That's what I'd been. I worked, my husband worked. We worked separate shifts, so it's always somebody there with them. But they had their friends. And that's where they wanted to hang out with their friends. And it was the wrong kind of friends they had. So I've been through it.
Yeah. And as a mom, how do you do that? How do you maintain that balance between trying to guide your children and even as they grow into adults, guiding them along, and then finally saying, okay, this is your life, then, you know, how do you do that?
It's hard, very hard. But through the grace of God, He has helped me. He has helped me a lot. You know, we always believed that when you had a baby, you took that baby and you dedicated it back to God. And I did that with every one of my boys. So when I pray for them now, I'd say, God, they're in your hands. It's your will, not my will. Tell us about the time you guys were camping and someone peed on someone. Well, it wasn't camping.
Oh.
When we were married, we had like 3 boys. Okay? Well, Dad bought this little house for me. And it was $45 a month. Well, we couldn't even afford that hardly. So it was only one bedroom, no bath. So we had a set of bunk beds in our bedroom and then the bed for Fred and I. So one night we was sleeping and Fred said, "The roof's leaking." I said, "What?" He said, "The roof's leaking, I'm getting wet." So I got up and I turned the light on, and when I turned the light on, Ted put his little peewee back in his pants and laid down.
Wait, what? So, was he sleepwalking?
He was asleep. He just thought, I guess he thought he had to pee and got up and just
Found the best place that he could.
He didn't even remember it.
Oh my God.
Good story.
What is your favorite Bible verse? Okay. My favorite is, "I look into the hills, which cometh my strength. My strength cometh from the Lord." That was my mom's favorite. Well, Mom had a growth in her mouth on her lower bottom plate, and she had false teeth, and she would go and get anointed at church to get that removed, and she would go and get prayed for, but she would always put them teeth in. She wouldn't go out to church without her teeth. And one day she was in the kitchen and she was doing dishes. And my sister lived next door to us, and she said, I stand there doing dishes, and she said, I looked up into the hills, and she said that verse came to me. And she said, I said that verse, and she said, something happened. She said, that little thing, that growth, she said, it just spit out in my hand. Should I spit it out? And she said, I run to my sister's house, and she said, look what God did for me. Said he took that, and she said there wasn't a place in my gum that where that was. And she said, God healed me. Did you regret working? Yeah, but I had to. I had to work, and so did their dad, because one income wasn't enough when you got 5 boys trying to raise them. So I didn't like it, but I had to. I didn't have any other choice.
And how do you do that just as a woman, juggling being a wife and a mother, particularly of 5 boys, and working? How did you get through that?
Well, I guess the good Lord helped me through it, because I'd have to come home, cook, do laundry, and try to get a few hours sleep, and then go back to work again. I first started out working at a shoe factory where I put the binding around the shoes, and then I got laid off there, and then Fred came up here, because I was from down there in Otway, and he came up here and got him a job. So then when he got a job and started working here, me and the boys came up here, and then I started working at a nursing home. 95 cents an hour. But I worked there, and then after that, I went up here to a little place up here in town that was Consolidated Ceramics, where we made molds for steel bridges and stuff. I worked there, and then after that, my foreman, she said, are you going to have to work all the time, Linda? And I said, I guess. I said, raising 5 boys. you know, you got to have some kind of money coming in. So she said, I'm going to talk to my husband and I'm going to get you a job at GE. So she talked to her husband and I got an interview down there. So I worked for GE until I retired. I started in there as a laborer, and then I worked my way up to building engines.
Yeah.
So I built jet engines. I don't understand that.
If you ever would have had a girl, what would you have named her? What would you have
Okay.
named her and why?
I always liked Penny.
That's my mom's name.
I always thought that was a pretty name.
Yeah.
If you could change one thing right now, what would it be? A millionaire.
Sure. Sure. Heard that.
Oh dear. I never will get that way, but what is the biggest regret? I don't have any regrets.
That's a good answer.
If you could tell all of your boys how much you love them, how would you tell them? Well, I would tell them that I love each and every one of them and that I would give my life for them. You know, a mother's love is just like God's love. No matter what they do or what they say, you'll always love them. When and where were you born? Well, I was born in Portsmouth, Ohio, and Dad worked at the steel mill in there. And Mom never did have to work. But I was born in Portsmouth on Walnut Street. That's where Dad cracked me out of a walnut, I guess. When did you and Grandpa get married? Okay. Me and Grandpa got married when I was 16 and he was 21. We got married in a little church called Beach Fork Church. We were the first wedding and the last wedding in that church.
Why was that?
And we got married on July the 18th, 1959.
What happened to the church?
They tore it down and built a new one. Yeah.
Couldn't handle all that love that
It
you all
was the
brought
only
to it.
one, you know, we were the only one that got married there. Dad, they had a big potbelly stove that's set in the middle of the church, and Dad would go up and start the fires in the winter and stuff and get it ready for the, you know.
What was your colors? What colors did you have for your wedding?
Well, I was in white. Fred was in a light blue suit. And my school teacher that lived down from us, she had flowers all over the place. So she did the flowers. And they were all different color, you know. Mom bought me a dress for $19.98 out of Alden catalog. And it was a little white lace dress, and it had a bow in the back and had ruffles in the back where the bow was. And she bought me these shoes, which was white, that had a red rose on the heel up. And I was the only one in the family that got married in the church and had a wedding. How did you get through the tough times of your marriage? Well, marriage isn't all what it's cut out to be. And it really is a 50-50 marriage. You got to give the same as he's got to give. And we had our rough times, but we got through them. And we was married for 57 years.
That's awesome. How did you get through those tough times? Was there anything in particular?
I kept everything to myself, you know. I mean, as far as my mom, she would always take up for me. And she would get all over Fred, so I couldn't go to her, you know, or Dad. So you just had to, you know, suck it up and go. Tell us about your first pregnancy. Were you happy or scared? Well, I was happy that I was having a baby, but Ted came feet first. They didn't have this, you know. So I remember Mom and Fred's mom, Delphia. They went with us to the hospital, and they would walk me, and then they go around and pick up where I riddled on the floor, and they would clean up after me, and I'd walk and try to, you know. And so when it started getting real bad, the doctor took me back, and he was born feet first. And when he was born feet first, the doctor had an aneurysm, and they had to put him in surgery. So, and we couldn't get Ted circumcised at that time, so I had to wait till he got better and take Ted to get him circumcised. And I don't think they gave the baby nothing. I mean, every time I'd lay him down to change his diaper, he would scream. So, it was rough. It was rough.
I'd say. So what are the odds? The doctor gets an aneurysm and you're trying to just have a baby at the same time? Oh my goodness.
And then Larry, Kayla's dad, he was born on Friday the 13th.
Oh no.
And then the doctor's car broke down, and he had to walk to the hospital. So,
Oh my gosh.
there's just one thing after another, I think. What did you want to be when you grew up? Oh, I wanted to be Marilyn Monroe.
Sure. Sure. Of course, yes.
What is something you would like to say to Jerry? Well, Jerry put me through a lot. And one thing about it now is that he has a bunch of grandchildren. And what he did in his past, it took them grandkids to get him out of it, because he thinks the world of his grandkids. They're all into sports. He was a football player, a wrestler, and he did very good at it. And his grandkids he's got them into all that sports.
Yeah.
And he's doing good, you know. Did you have a nickname growing up? Yeah. My aunt gave me the nickname of Coco. That's what she always called me. was Coco.
Love that. Any reason why?
Well, when back in them days, you know, I had a little friend that was black, and she said, "You love that friend more than you love anything else." I said, "Well, she's my best friend, you know." And she said, "I'm just going to name you Coco." So that's where I got my name from.
Someday when you have moved on and you've gone to heaven, how do you want your kids, grandkids to remember you by?
Well, I hope that they remember me by what I do for them and what I've given them all through life. And a lot of love I've given them. I love each and every one of them. They're all different. They all got their different ways. But I don't think I had any more beautiful grandkids and great-grandkids. And every one of my sons are good looking. There's not a one of them ugly in the family. They're all beautiful in my eyes. And I love them all.
If a friend was here today, what would you say to him?
And I love him. And I miss him. He was the backbone of the family. He always made the decisions and everything and help them all out. And Fred was a very caring person. He took care of the guys that he run with. He'd take them to the doctor. He would do whatever it took for him, you know. He loved his friends, and his friends loved him. It'd be great to see him. I'd love to see them all again, and I will. One of these days I'll have a reunion in heaven. I have a lot of loved ones. I got a sister and a brother and a mom and dad, Fred, his brother. He's got two brothers that passed away, and his mom and dad. They were all good to me. The families was all good to me, and I love each and every one of them.